All right, we're live. Welcome back to another episode of the Virtual Millionaire Show. Today, I have with me a very special guest and a good friend of mine, Jeremy Resmer. Jeremy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. So, this is a live episode, and so for people who are going to be joining us in live, um, we're going to do a Q&A at the end of it. But if you're watching this as a replay, let us know. Drop it in the comments of where you're coming in from. But man, when you told me about this new marketing channel that you are rolling out, I'm like, this is absolutely insane, and people need to know about this. And so, before we get into that, um, let's talk about you, man. Let's talk about who you are, how'd you get into real estate, a little bit of your story, and then we'll kind of roll back into the marketing. So, who's Jeremy Resmer?
I've kind of lived, I think, 8 of my 9 lives already before I got into real estate. But uh, grew up in Michigan, just a sports fanatic. Played every sport under the sun. Played basketball in college. After college, decided I wanted to do something in business. I was like, I'm gonna start my own business, or I'm gonna invest in stocks or real estate. So I probably read 200, 250 leadership business type books, investing books in college. And I didn't really read many of my textbooks, but I was on the road a lot, and some of my teachers like basketball, so I kind of got away with it. But after college, I actually spent some time living in Kenya, doing some mission work, and didn't know how long I was going to be there. Thought I might be there the rest of my life, but as it turned out, I was probably there 6 months, and they wouldn't renew my visa. So I was like, well, I guess it's time to come home. So after that, I've kind of bounced around, working for small startup companies. I was in LA, in the garment industry, making denim and high end women's clothing, and kind of bounced around into tech, and was in Silicon Valley, kind of living all over the place, man. Trying to follow my dreams, and make a way for myself, and then ultimately started my own apparel company. Had a great idea. Thought we were gonna make it huge. I mean, we were on the cusp, and then 2007, 2008, we were in the middle of a 90-day million to $2 million raise, waiting for checks to hit the bank. Lehman Brothers, I should say, goes under. Bam, that's that, and literally line dead. So went into about 100K worth of debt, and didn't know what I was going to do. I was fortunately single at the time, so I was like, all right, well, just got to survive, and kind of bounced around a few different places, took a couple of jobs, and basically my met my wife back in Kenya, the place where I lived for a while, and she was the only American there. It's a long story, but it's a really cool story. So we came back to the States and realized, hey, this thing was going to work out. So she married into about 100K of debt. So,
Unbelievable.
so
That's
she told
commitment
me,
right there.
she said, Jeremy, um, we're gonna work out of this debt problem, because I don't have debt and I don't want to be in debt. So literally in 18 months time, we paid off 100K worth of debt. And then the funny thing is, immediately after that happened, she was in a good job at a working for a physician. She left to go do nonprofit work, and then literally 6 to 8 months later, I decided to leave my really good job, and so we literally cut 75% of our income. I sort of took a year off, did some consulting. Anyways, long story short, we made it to 2016. My wife and I, we've got 4 kids. We live in Nashville, Tennessee, and we adopted 2 kids, 2 girls from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Lived there for 18 months. That's a whole nother story on its
Wow.
own. And when we came back, I just, I knew I needed to dive into real estate. So heard Tom Kroll on the Bigger Pockets podcast.
Yes.
Loved his energy, and I'm like, this guy, whatever he's got, I want it. So literally put $5,000 on a credit card. Didn't have a whole lot of money at the time, and joined the tribe. And from there,
Yes.
the rest is history. But we've gone a lot of different directions, done a lot of different things. But it's been definitely an exciting ride, and wouldn't trade it for the world.
Dude, what an adventure. Like I haven't heard that much detail in your backstory, but that is super cool. it's like a typical serial entrepreneurial, right? Like you have all these different ventures and some things didn't go as planned, but you found out about real estate and Tom Kroll, and gosh, I wonder how many people have a similar story as hearing him on a podcast and then getting into Wholesaling Inc. Like it's got to be a lot, honestly. Those guys have impacted a lot of people, but super
Bro,
cool,
so
man.
check this out. So, okay, I got to make sure it looks right. So, this is a rhino. It's actually from a book called The Barbarian Way. And my
Okay.
wife, she forced me to get it in like 2010. She's like, I'm sick of you she's like, I'm sick of you talking about getting it. And so, literally for Christmas one year, she said, "Oh, we're going to go pick up some last minute gifts." And we went with her family. And we show up, and I'm like, "What are we going to the tattoo parlor?" Everyone gets out of the car, and she opens the door and she says, "We're not, but you are. Your appointment is right now." And I was like, "Holy crap." So she had organized for me to get this tattoo. So it's great because it's like three rhinos in one. So it's symbolic of my faith. It's African tribal art, which is symbolic of just some of my past, living in Africa 2 different times. And then as it turned out, I joined the tribe like 6 years later, and they were all about rhinos. So I'm like, man, I'm a perfect fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say for people who don't know what he means by obviously the symbolism for you personally, but for the Rhino tribe, Tom Kroll created a community where they talk a lot about charging, as a rhino in the tribe, and so that's amazing that your wife just said, you know what, I'm tired of you talking about
Yep.
it. You're gonna get a tattoo. So
Yep.
good stuff. All right, so a lot has happened since then. We met probably 4 years ago now, maybe give or
Yep.
take, in Salt Lake City, actually at one of their events, and your business has exploded since then. I think a lot of our business have really exploded, and that's a good thing, right? Because that means we're moving in the right direction. But what has happened since then? Obviously you got into real estate, you're in Nashville, but you don't necessarily invest necessarily in Nashville. Could you kind of tell us about the dynamic and what your business looks like today?
Yeah, so when I started, I thought I was getting into wholesaling, and as it turned out, I wasn't very good at finding deals. And so I tried to, just like everyone else, you jump in and was like, all right, I'll figure it out along the way. Well, as it turned out, I ended up flipping my first several properties because I was able to find houses that way. Um, and they were off market, but I just didn't have enough margin to assign them, and I was still trying to figure that part out. So I ended up managing contractors and learning a lesson in that. And at the same time, I was running the marketing, I was chasing down phone calls, dealing with all the hassles and headaches. And so, literally, what happened was I bought myself a really expensive. No, it wasn't even a high paying job. I shouldn't even say that. When I started out, it wasn't. It was literally like I had no backup plan. I was in a ministry position for 5.5 years before this, traveling the world. And so I had saved up about 20 grand. I burned through that in a couple months. I had a couple of flips, and I needed to, my very first year, didn't know if I was going to have Christmas, and literally was on my hands and knees praying, like, I this has to sell, so I can, provide for my kids. And it was a humbling experience, right? Because when you're in that situation, you're reliant on something or someone else. I put in the hard work, but I was dependent on, this house selling, which thankfully it did. And started to kind of figure out the wholesaling side of it, figured out how to become a better marketer, and just was relentless about learning how to do things better than what I felt like was anybody else or anybody else that was in my market. And so it took me a little while, but finally I got to a point where I realized I couldn't do this alone. So I had to bring in some help, build a team around me. And along with that, I also was like, I'm my own worst enemy, from the standpoint that, like, I'm a doer, and so I can go get it done, but I can't do everything. I'm only limited by, the number of hours in the day, and that's huge. So I found my guys would want to go to jobs and be on site at 4 or 5 in the morning. They're like, "Hey, we like to get there early, and then we want to be done relatively early." I'm like, "Oh shoot, I got 3 young kids at the time," and was like, "Man, I don't even see them in the mornings. I'm on the job, and then I get home. I could see them for, an hour, two max." and then I'm back in the grindstone. And even when I was home, I wasn't present. You know what I mean?
Right,
So I
right.
made the decision that I needed to get out of my own market and my own way. And so I literally just said, "The heck with it! I'm gonna buy a house in another market," and kind of the rest is history. I just kind of dove in and started making the transition from everything to marketing to my time, resources, and then I built a team in another market.
That's crazy, man. So it reminds me of when I was getting started and like I was literally praying on my knees for a deal to go through because you get to a certain point where I don't know how long it took you to get to your first deal, but that first deal is everything. Once you can get that done, it's really that faith to fact moment that you need. But how long did it take you to get to that first deal?
Oh man, so this is part of the journey too. This is what made it so difficult. Is I actually had two smoking deals under contract. I had buyers, everything lined up. Title work comes back, and two deals within probably the first month that I thought were locked up. Both of them were $30,000 assignment fees. I'm like, man, I'm rolling, I'm game. And so what happened
Yeah.
was, I'm like, I was looking for the next thing, so I'm trying to invest. And I said, okay, well, I got my Carrot site. How do I drive traffic to that site? And this was when Carrot was still really new, right? 2016. So I'm like, all right, I can do PPC or SEO. Well, I made the wrong choice, I believe. I went SEO, and I got linked up with a company that was charging me like $2,400 a month, and I thought, okay, this is great. I thought it was going to happen sooner rather than later. And so what happened was I did this before those deals closed, thinking I'm in great shape.
Right.
So both of those deals, there were really weird title things. They were estate issues that could not be resolved. Literally could not be resolved. The sellers could not sell them. They were part of a life estate, had to go to the next heirs. The heirs were not old enough. And then there were other, it was crazy. And those other people didn't want to sell. So long story short, two fantastic deals right out of the gate fell through. And I freaked out because I signed a 12-month contract for 2,200 bucks a month, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, well, I'm on the hook now. I'm going to make this work no matter what. And so
You just signed your
literally,
salary at your old past job. Literally.
exactly. So I basically just was like, all right, well, I got to figure out another way. If I could do two right out of the rip, we'll get one to closing. And of course I didn't. And then I found a property on Craigslist, and probably 20 people came over and couldn't help this guy out. And he was willing to give me time of day. And I'm like, you know what, man, I think I can do something for you. And just kept working the numbers. So I bought it and I flipped it, and it was I thought it was going to be a really cool flip, and I didn't know it was historic. It was right downtown Nashville, right by where the Titans play. So I'm like, this is a smoking property. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to make X number of dollars, right? I'm counting my chickens already, and then
Sure.
come to find out, oh, this is a historic property. I'm like, oh shoot.
What's that mean?
So historic property, come to find out, I had several people educate me that, there's very specific requirements. They don't want you to change the footprint. You have to do specific colors. But in my case, I actually couldn't change the footprint at all. So I couldn't do, like, I needed to add on to this property in the back, and I couldn't. So I'm like, all right, well, let's just flip it as is and see if we can turn a little profit. I ended up making 14,000 on my first deal. It was a 2 week
Sweet.
flip, and I'm like, all right, I'm off. I at least can do it without having any clue how to do it, right? I had never flipped a property. I didn't know what I was doing, and we still made it work. And then the rest is history from there.
That
I was
was your
just like,
first
all right,
deal, though.
that was my first deal. And man, I wish I still owned that property, but hey, it got me to the next one and the next one, and that's that. So
Yeah, yeah. So you accidentally got into flipping because wholesaling, you were having a hard time with it. But just to give some people perspective, because it took me about seven or 8 months to get my first deal, and my first contract fell through just like yours. And so, give some people some perspective. Did you start this business and you're like, oh man, I'm a stud at this, and I just got my first deal in the first month? I mean, some people do, but it's not common. So, how long did that take you to get to that first deal? How long did it
so
take you
that
from the day you plugged in to the day you got that first paycheck
Yeah,
after it flipped and sold?
so the first deal that I when I put that one under contract, that was around day 90. It was right in that kind of sweet spot of like, hey, try to get a deal within your first 90 days. So we did. And then we actually sold it, I want to say, in like October. So that would have been um, probably took me a couple months to actually get it sold. We had some other things happen, but anyways, I would say we probably ended up being about 5 months total, and it was
Not
only
bad.
14,000. It was the only deal that I had so far. So
Yeah.
I was still in that ministry job, um, kind of just working my way out. I knew it was time to move on. So I was like, all right, well, at least there's a little bit. And then right after that, I needed to make the jump. So that's when I was like, all right, it's all or nothing, burn the ships.
Yep, yep. So you burn the ships then at that point after you got that first deal. Man, what was going through your head when it took you that long to get the money, and really that money just paid for the marketing at that point probably, right? Because if you're spending 2,400 a month, 2,400 a month times 5 or 6 months, I mean, shoot, you're probably not positive yet. Um, how was that? Like for people out there who
Right.
are in this position, they're like, "Man, I know I need to go full time. I know I need to do this." What do you say to them who are in that position?
Yeah, so part of it was there were some things going on in my life. I'll be honest, man. I was struggling in my marriage, being that I was traveling all over the world, doing all sorts of different things while my kids were at home and my wife was at home. And then, it was nonprofit work. So there wasn't a lot of money. I had some other things going. I started other businesses on the side. I was literally day trading stocks just to pay the bills. I mean, there's a lot of things that were kind of going on. So I just said, hey, you know what? I got to pick one thing, and I needed to get out of ministry to just salvage my family and recover and get refreshed. And so I just said, hey, if other people are doing this, I can do it. It was freaky, to have a wife. She asked. She said, hey, do you want me to go get a job? I said, no. Let's stay the course. We were in the process of homeschooling our kids, and this was way before COVID, by the way. This was back 16, 17. And so I just said, no, that's what we need to do. And let's just give it a shot. So fortunately my wife supported me in that. That was a huge decision. I know it freaked her out. And I basically borrowed a HELOC. I took $60,000. So I had about 20 grand in savings, burned through that, and then basically took 60,000 from a HELOC to pay myself each month just so we could survive,
Crazy,
and
man.
then was able to find those deals that kind of took us to the next step and the next step. But I will say that that's not for everybody. But my personality is all or nothing, and I'm just like, hey, I'm a learner, so I go learn, I figure things out, and if it didn't work out, I was like, you know what, then we'll figure something else out after that. But I wasn't giving myself a plan B. There was just a plan A, and I was putting my heart and soul into it.
Dude, I have chills right now because it's a catalyst that I see, and I felt this in myself when I went all in on real estate. And my wife actually told me that I need to quit my job in my situation. But a few things that I heard that everyone should be taking notes on because it's so important. Whether if it's a marketing channel or a side business or all of these different things, you got to focus on the one thing. And Jeremy went all in real estate. He was trying to juggle it all and he was having a hard time with it. And another thing is you didn't give yourself too many options. You had to figure this out. Once you took that HELOC out, it's like, okay, well now I definitely have to figure this out. And so that's another thing that, it's not for everyone. And I'm not saying to go take a HELOC and do this, but if you had some comfortable income coming in, you may have not taken it as serious as you needed to. And so that's I just want to stop and highlight that because so many people forget about those details and it's the little things. So since then, you made a comment about, man, I wish I wouldn't have really invested this slow process of marketing. Um, you wish you would have kind of started with something else. So you've transitioned to not just doing all of this yourself. You've built a team around you. You're doing business in Myrtle Beach now, pretty heavy. So what has changed? What went from what happened from the Jeremy who was doing it all to the Jeremy who has 5 or 6 marketing channels, who's absolutely crushing it, guys. You're very humble, man, but you are crushing it. For anybody listening, you've got to hear this. So fill us in on where you're at today.
Yeah, so I started dabbling in land and was actually making a transition, was going to get out of wholesaling altogether. And so started doing land, started seeing massive successes in land in like 2018, 19. And but was still really felt like I was in the business too much and was like, you know what, let's just see how this goes. So there was a point there that in 2019, um, we bought our first rental, and I literally told the owner 5 different times, no, 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 we're way off on price, and just kept, pulling back. And finally, she just said, "What price, you know, do you need to buy this house at?" I said, honestly, 75. She's like, all right, 77 is done. I'm like, okay. So I got into this, into the rental game, and land, and I'm kind of doing this simultaneous, trying to figure out what's the right spot for us as a company. And I literally went from zero rentals in December of 2019 to having 50 doors in 11 months. And
Insane.
so that was mostly in Tennessee. That was in my home market. And I was still doing all the things. We're doing land. We're still wholesaling. We're still flipping. And I was like, man, this is great. We're making more money, but something's got to change. Like it's still a job, and I'm
Yeah.
still too involved in it, and I'm not getting the time with my family. So at that point, I literally bought a house sight unseen in Myrtle Beach, a wholesaler. I reached out to several, and a guy, threw me a house and said, "Hey, I'll give you a shot." We worked out the price, and I didn't even know how I was going to get it, fixed up and rented. But he actually introduced me to the guy that's now my partner, and the guy was a beast, just an absolute beast. And so he took on that first project, and I'm like, man, this guy is a straight shooter. He's up from Massachusetts. He's telling me like it is. Like I knew this guy could absolutely crush it in real estate. He was already a contractor for 25 years doing commercial and single family. But I'm like, if I could teach him how to make the offers, he was already an incredible negotiator. So we kind of tested some things out. We were running zero marketing, and literally when we started to less than 3 years later, we went from zero to over 1.5 million, and we started with one marketing channel. We started in that space. We were able to find someone that was doing SEO for us for $600 a month, and they did an awesome job. It was a very fragmented market at the time, and so I just said, "Hey, I think I could do really well here, and if I do, it gets me out of the day-to-day rat race, going and seeing properties and managing contractors." And so during that time, we picked up rental property, single family. But then I bought my first two multifamilies. I picked up an 8 unit for 175. Man, those days were great. I wish they were still around.
Right.
And then I bought 19 units for like 700,000. And so, I mean, just fantastic, right? So I'm like, man, this is going really good. I'm getting into land. I'm getting into, rentals. I'm getting into multifamily. Our wholesaling's going good. So then I'm like, okay, well, if we can start doing well in this other market and I can start getting a life back, like what does it look like to transition? So I just made the transition over time. I'm like, hey, we're going to give this thing 6 months. I told my partner, hey, let's really make this roll. I'm going to start taking marketing from Tennessee and putting it into South Carolina. So we did SEO, then we picked up pay per click, then we did Facebook, then we added radio, then we added TV, direct mail, and now we're doing CTV. So I think in total we do 8 marketing channels,
Wow.
and this year we're expecting to blow away last year's numbers. So this is like our fourth year in Myrtle Beach. I don't know where we're going to land at the end of the year, but we're trending somewhere in the 2 to 2.5 million. So for me, this is like fantastic because I never go see a house anymore. I never go talk to sellers. I'm literally making sure the phones are ringing, and leading my team and making sure that I'm investing in them and creating a good culture. And we've got an office and a team, scattered in different parts of the U.S. We've got a few people here in Tennessee. We've got several people in South Carolina there, and we just continue to build this thing out.
Dude, that's incredible. Like, let's go. An insane amount of deal flow with that many marketing channels. It's impressive. It's honestly, it's been so cool to watch what you've built out there. And it's inspired me to keep pushing the envelope on marketing because one thing that I noticed about what you've built is you've built the omnipresence. You everyone in the area should know who your company is, right? Because
Yep.
you've created that authority. And one of the things that I titled this today, which we're going to get into, and we're going to talk specifics about it, is really marketing, omnipresence, and really hyper focusing on that. And you mentioned TV, and we do TV as well, but you've taken TV to a whole nother level and on a very, very scalable model that's actually very inexpensive from the cost that a lot of people might be thinking about. So let's get into that, man. Let's talk about connected TV and what you have going on and kind of how people can also learn about that. And we'll
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Well, let me tell you something about omnipresence too, because it kind of goes in line with this channel and kind of what you were talking about. So my goal was always build an ecosystem, right? In an ecosystem, you've got water flowing, you've got animals moving about doing their thing, you've got tree, but everything is alive. There's energy. There's just life, man. And so my thought with the marketing is everything can reinforce the other things. So I'm a little bit backwards in marketing from the standpoint that so often people are saying, well, what's your conversion rate? What's your click through rate? What's your response rate from direct mail? I actually throw all that out and I say, it actually matters none. I don't care. It does not factor into what we're doing because what I look at is, to me, more important is how many calls are coming in every month. Okay. But realistically, even the calls don't matter. What matters is how many appointments are we going on? How many offers are we submitting? How many contracts? Because
right.
it's a stepping stone. So yes, the phones have to be ringing, and the online forms need to be filled out, and that lead gen is huge. But I'm not looking at it the same way a lot of people do because I'm running so many different channels that my radio may drive search, and then my TV ad. Oh, I saw you on TV. But then they actually don't call the TV number. They go search online, and then it looks like an SEO lead, right? So I actually had a lady who called us on, it was the morning, and we show up at her house, and she says, "Oh my gosh, it's you." She says to my partner, "Oh my gosh, it's you." And he's like, "What? Like, is this good?" She's like, "Well, listen, I woke up this morning and my alarm went off, and I heard your ad on the radio." She's like, and then I go to my kitchen. I have a cup of coffee, and then I hear your ad on, or watch your ad on TV. And she
Yep.
says, and now you're here. She's like, I just can't believe you're the same guy. And so what's funny is she also said that she had done some research as well online. So there's that SEO portion, right?
Yep.
And she said, like, I want to go with you guys. I have a little bit of a unique situation, and I know you guys are the ones who are going to make this work for me. So we got the contract. It ended up being $100,000 assignment fee. And I think I may have told you about this one when it
What?
happened.
A
Yeah.
100K assignment fee?
And so here's the deal. How do I attribute that lead? Is that SEO? Is that TV? Is that radio? Like, they all work together. And so
Right.
creating that ecosystem where you're everywhere and you have great reviews, and people are going to find you in all these different places, and then they see you more and more, and then it just reinforces the brand and the messaging. And so my idea is, when anyone thinks about selling their house or selling their house quickly in the Myrtle Beach area, I want them thinking about Myrtle Beach home buyers. So that's how we kind of set this whole thing up.
Yeah, and really, I love the perspective because I've been very dialed in on, hey, I got to give this channel credit. I give this channel credit, especially when you're spending money on TV. But at the end of the day, that $100,000 deal pays for a lot of those marketing channels for the entire year. And so, really, the return on investment is insane, regardless if you give credit to SEO, TV, connected TV, whatever, right? So, I love that perspective, man. And the omnipresence is no joke. Like when
Yep.
people see you here, hear you there, see you over there, and then in his case, he stepped into their house. It's like, oh my gosh, just here, sign the contract. Like, I don't even need to negotiate because I already know I can trust you. That
Yep.
trust factor. is a game changer when it comes to business, because we've all been there chasing deals. It's not fun, but when you can establish that authority, it's game over.
Yep.
All right, so
So
let's
you go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So CTV, how does all that tie into it? So where did this come about? Well, you and I both, you utilize TV as a marketing channel, and I love it, man. TV is great. And in
I
fact,
agree.
what I've recently found is I've done a deeper dive into my business where we were in 2020 versus where we're at this year. It's crazy. So I get 26% of my deals, believe it or not, from direct mail. I get 12% of my deals from TV. I get 20% from SEO, but I get 49% of my revenue from SEO. That's crazy, right?
That is crazy. And those are
So
all hot organic leads.
exactly, and they're different, and how we approach them is different. But then we've got radio, and we've got Facebook, and we've got PPC, and they're all working, right? And so even if we're covering our ROI, or whether it's a 3x ROI, or maybe it's just a 1-to-1, part of what we're trying to do is just fall in line with that ecosystem, right? So when we were doing TV, I'm like, man, this is really great. But a friend of mine came to me over a year ago, and he said, "Hey, Jeremy, I'm working on this new project, this new technology called CTV, which is connected TV. So if you're watching your TV and you're watching on Hulu and you're getting fed ads, those are very, very targeted ads. And you also, the same thing with the streaming device, right? So if you're looking at your phone, that's called OTT. So CTV and OTV, without getting too technical, those are like, hey, those are the streaming devices, the streaming ads. And so he was telling me about the technology. And I'm like, hold on a second. And I started asking these questions. I said, have you thought about, do you know what I do? And he said, well, I know you're in real estate investing. I said, this has so much potential. And so we had a conversation with him and his partners, and we basically built out a new technology where instead of just shotgun approach, so TV is shotgun approach, right? You might do 25 ads per week, 30 seconds. You don't know who's listening. It might be the right audience. It may not. You may get 5 calls from it right then and there. And then the next ad goes, you get a few more calls. You might get some search. So it's great. I love it. It works.
Yep.
However, with this particular technology, I started asking questions. We started building this thing out. And what I found out is it has the capability of Facebook from the standpoint where if I have a list, I can literally send it to my Facebook ads team. And if that list is 10,000, 40,000, it doesn't matter. You send it to them, and then they will then upload the list to Facebook. And then, Facebook will say, oh, John Smith, this phone number, this email address, all it needs to do is match it, right? So
Right.
once it matches it, now it's going to start retargeting and playing ads on Facebook. Okay. And then we can do the exact same thing in our platform. So when I'm skip tracing a list, which I do for everything, I even do because I'm doing direct mail, I'm doing Facebook, and now I'm doing CTV. So I'm already doing the skip tracing, so there's no additional cost. And so literally, I'm uploading my list to CTV, and I'm also sending direct mail. Well, here's the beautiful thing: direct mail may take 2 weeks, 3 weeks before it actually hits. Facebook might start serving up ads right away, but that's one medium. My CTV will literally find those individuals, find those people on my list, and will say, okay, send John Smith or serve John Smith an ad, and it's a TV ad. So now, what I love about TV, all the benefits, low competition, tons of credibility. I look like the authority in my market. I'm now targeting the exact people that I want to hit faster than any other marketing channel with what I believe is the most powerful medium, which is a TV ad.
Right.
It's visual, and that is just driving insane traffic right now for our business. We started doing it back in April, and I think I sent you a graph yesterday of what it's doing to our traffic.
I was looking at it, man, and like the statistics, the amount of visitors to your actual website is insane. Like the trend from when you started this to now, it's insane.
Yeah, yeah. So we started in April. It was a total test. We didn't know what we were doing. I was the guinea pig, and I said, "Hey, if I'm going to put this out for other investors, number one, I need to see if it works, right? Number two, let's see what kind of results we actually get. What do the numbers look like? And then does it really drive traffic? Does it drive deals? Well, in our first month, we had over 165 site visits alone. We had 26% increase in call volume. We did 2 deals and total of 76,000. So we had a 61K assignment fee and we had a 15K assignment fee. That was the
People are
first month.
people are doing that big of assignment fees in Myrtle Beach.
Bro, I mean, you got to keep in mind that my acquisition managers, they're formerly contractors. So they know exactly their numbers. They're not just winging
Yeah,
it. They know their numbers and they're like, "Well, here's where we want to be," right? And if people are going for it, then great. And you don't know, it's a hot market too. So we're
right.
very conservative. So we're anything we put under contract, we're buying. So we better make sure that what we're putting under is a deal to us. And
For sure.
so we make that decision. Hey, is this something we want to put out? Do we want to flip it? How do we want to handle this? And so when we disposition that asset as an assignment fee, our fees right now I think we're up at like 39 or 40,000 assignment fee, average assignment fee,
That's
and then we're at
insane.
yeah, and for SEO, the reason I bring that up is because for SEO we're at 51,000. So yeah, we're doing really well there. In a changing market, I think those numbers are probably going to come down,
Right.
but we've had a ton of success really marketing and being everywhere. And so CTV has just added to that. We were at in April, we were at 488. No, I take it back. In March, we were at 480 unique visits. In April, we bumped up to 688, and then we bumped all the way up over 1,000. Today, we're at like 1,600 unique visits to our website. Um, we're just blowing up. And like last weekend, Labor Day, I was like, oh man, this will be a quiet weekend. We had 13 online lead submissions. It's crazy,
That's
right? So
insane. On Labor Day?
on Labor Day weekend. So we came back and
Jeez.
so here's what's crazy, right? So when I was, burning the candle on both ends, as they say,
Yeah,
I would just, lead would come in and I'm like, man, I got to take it right now, even if I was with my family. And so now it's like, hey, leads come in all the time. My call team, they're Americans, they're here in the States, and I don't have anybody working on the weekends. If we can help it, nobody works on the weekends. And so, these guys came into the office on, actually, they're not in the office, they're remote, but these guys got on their computers the day after Labor Day and they're like, holy crap, we've got like 13 leads. And so, I mean, I'm not going to say every weekend is like that, but usually on holiday weekends, the numbers are a little bit slower.
yeah.
But lately, man, it's just been off the charts. We get a lot of online submissions. Like I said, our phone calls, we're still up over 20% call volume. And, we're doing really well. And the only variable that we've changed on our end is we added CTV. So I'm hoping that continues. Some of that could be because of the market. People could be getting scared. I don't know if other people are seeing similar results, but I know that last year, if I look at the year over year, I think I was at like 400 visits or so, and now we're up at 1,600. So since we started, we're over 3x with CTV. I know that's driving search.
Yeah, that's insane, man, and thanks for sharing that because, I think you're in business when you tell your team, "You know what? I know the leads are all sitting there. They're all motivated sellers, but you know what? They're gonna be there when we get back on Monday or Tuesday, and, that's a really healthy place to be because we've all been there, in the beginning. And sometimes I even am still sitting on my phone or not doing anything, and I'm like, oh shoot, like that's a motivated seller. I kind of want to go
Yep.
call them, but the influx that you're telling us from CTV has been insane. Like I saw the charts. Like imagine an extra 400 to 500 visitors coming from an additional marketing channel to your business. That's what you're telling me right now. So it's absolutely insane.
Well, yeah,
So
and you do the math. I don't know what your conversion is. So my conversion tends to be typically we're around 12 to maybe 17 or 18% on our website with our carrot site. And sometimes we get as high as 20%. So,
so
if
for
you're
every
talking.
lead, you're converting 1 out of 5 essentially
Right,
at
right. Now, I
20%.
would I, I would say typically we're probably closer to the 15 to 17 mark. Sometimes it dips down to 12, but usually not. Usually we're in the 15 to 17. Sometimes it's as high as 20%. So you do the math on that. Whether they come from SEO, just from searching, CTV, regular TV, radio, I don't really care. And that's why I'm more concerned with how many people are we driving to our site? How many people are we driving to the phones? Because all these marketing channels work together. So
Right.
if we're doing the things that we need to do, and my guys are going on appointments, or they're making offers over the phone, the name of the game is you got to make offers, right? You got to get leads, which is going to drive your appointments / your offers, and then your contracts. So I mean, there's no real secret to it. But as far as we're concerned, my secret is, hey, do all of these things that fit our personality, right? Because I don't do any texting and I do no cold calling. I know those are great channels. I know we can make money off of those, but I tried them, and there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of dealing with people that are upset.
Yep.
You're staffing more people, and I was just like, you know what? That doesn't fit our team's personality. So
Right.
we've actually gone to an all inbound model, and it's been just hugely effective, and it fits our culture and our personality really, really well.
Yeah, man. So I love that, and it's a good place to be. Again, all these people calling into you, and so a lot of people who are gonna watch this and who are watching this right now, it's like, man, Jeremy, come on, like, tell me how I can get access to that because targeting a very specific niche. So, for example, I have a vacant list, I have a notice a default list, and those people may not watch TV. They may not watch the traditional TV. So, if I can put myself in front of them, I'm going to have people who want to sell their house calling me because they saw me here when nobody else was doing it. And I've never heard of anybody doing this. And so to me, it's a groundbreaking marketing channel that I really, really would love to share with my audience of how they could kind of learn about it and get access to it. And so I think, don't we have a special deal for people watching this? If they come to you from my show, hearing this, and any special offer of how they can learn more about this?
Yeah, for sure. So, you can find out more about CTV. You just go to investorctv.com. What we're doing is all you need to do is go to the site, or just reach out to me directly and just say, hey, Michael referred me. And, if you do that for the first 5 people that actually do sign up, we'll actually make your commercial. We'll do it free of charge. That typically we charge $1,500 for the commercial. So we'll do one, and we may even do two, just depending. But we'll have everything worked out for you. We'll have it all set up. Now, if you have your own commercial and you don't need us to do that, then I'll actually adjust the offer and say, hey, great, bring your own commercial. As long as it meets our standards, then I'll give you $1,500 off the first month. So we can work it both ways. But one thing I will say, and this is why I absolutely love, the CTV model, is you're able to hit your people, and I kind of mentioned this. You're able to hit your list faster than any other channel that I've seen. So we can upload a list and immediately start retargeting them. They'll be seeing your ads. But here's what's cool: is it's not just TV in the background, right? It's these people are actually choosing to watch a show on Hulu or on some other device. They're choosing to watch. So here's the thing: we're catching people when they want to watch TV, and so they can't skip ahead. We have like a 96 to 98% completion rate. So if someone jumps off and they're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna, jump off this and I'll come back and I'll avoid this commercial," well, they can do that. It very seldom happens. They'll have to actually come back and watch another commercial, another ad, right? So they're seeing a 30-second ad. Well, here's the deal: we're able to get about 140,000 impressions per month at our baseline pricing. So just imagine that means that your ad is being played, the 30-second ad, for people who want to watch. Therefore, they're paying more attention. It's more memorable. They're seeing you 140,000 times. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean that, everybody's going to see you 140,000 times. But if I send a list, and this is what I do, we've actually got two different channels, right? We've got a retargeting channel, which is our list. So I sent a list, last week, 94,000. You don't have to send it that big, but you could, or you could send it to, 500,000. It doesn't matter. It's going to depend on your market. It's going to depend on what you're trying to do.
Right.
But I can send that list. It gets uploaded. We have some percentage are matched. Is typically around 70% or so. They'll find them. They have a digital device in their home. Now, keep in mind, it's not the person at the house. It's the mail address. So who the owner is, right? So it's finding them. So if I'm in Myrtle Beach, but I've got a bunch of people from up north, and they're in Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, it's being played to those people wherever they're located. Okay, so that's one way. So we've got two campaigns running simultaneously. That one, our targeted campaign, and then we have another one where we call it like audience outreach. We might say, hey, the person needs to own a home. They maybe are a certain age. They have a home value between 20,000 and 200,000. And so literally you can serve an ad up to one house, and then the neighbor will not get that ad, right? So if you're targeting a neighborhood in your market and you're like, okay, you're targeting a seller in a particular neighborhood, maybe there's only one great house in that neighborhood that fits your criteria. Literally, that one house will get the ad. The other ones won't if they don't fit your criteria. So literally, you're going down to the individual level. And then you also have a broader campaign to pick up other people as well. And so we found that both campaigns are actually performing very, very well for us. But we're constantly testing so that we really can get, our clients the best results. And it's really been effective. So that's what I really love about CTV, is that it's so targeted. You have all the credibility and authority. It makes you look like a huge company, even if
Yep.
you're not. So we have had a lot of success, and I would just encourage anyone that's looking for kind of that edge, maybe looking to fish in a different pond. In my opinion, this is it, and this has been great for us. I'm a product of the product, so I can answer your questions. I can tell you exactly what we're doing, what's working, what's not working. But I'd love to talk to anyone that's interested. And listen, if it's not a great fit, that's fine. But if
Right.
you're looking to add another channel, or if you're doing a lot of deals already and you want to get more deals, I mean, right now we're getting an average of about 2 per month that we can attribute from CTV. But again, that's great. That means that it's at least we have really good ROI.
I was gonna say no
But
big deal. Average of 39,000 assignment fee, and you're getting 2 extra deals a month. That's a pretty
exactly,
good ROI.
exactly. So
I
yeah.
love it, man. All right, so you heard it here first. You definitely want to check out the website. What's the website, Jeremy?
So it's investorctv.com.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to reach out, they can, just message me on Facebook. I'd be happy to chat. We can schedule some time. Um, you can also call me. I mean, feel free to call my cell phone. I'm happy to you know talk to you about anything, even if it's not CTV. If you want to talk real estate, if you want to talk, deals, I'm cool with that. 615-670-8153. That's my cell. That's actually my cell. So don't be spamming me at like two
Man,
in
oh
the
no, he
morning.
didn't. He just gave out his cell phone on this. No, guys, in all seriousness, talk to Jeremy. He's a great guy, and he's crushing it. And this would be an absolute incredible addition. I know we have about 5 or 6 channels going, and this is certainly one that we're going to be adding into our collection. And so definitely check it out. And Jeremy, Really appreciate it, man. This has been super awesome. Thank you so much. And Jeremy Resmer on Facebook, I would imagine, right?
Yep.
For people to find you there.
Yep,
Sweet.
and you can email me too, Jeremy at 843 cash offer, man. I'm making it easy. So if you're looking, you want to reach me, feel free. I'm always responding. I'll get back to you probably within 24 hours, if not sooner. So hit me up.
Perfect.
Love talking shop, man.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you guys all again for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Go follow Jeremy. Go check out Investor CTV. It's going to be a game changer for your business. So thank you again, and we'll see you on the next one.